Hello everyone and welcome to reading lesson number 4 on the park. This is the final lesson on the park and we will be focusing on marking the answers from the comprehension. So if you got any of them wrong, hopefully you'll understand through the explanation where you went wrong and use that knowledge of how to answer in the future similar questions. All right, let's have a look at the PowerPoint now. Okay, reading lesson number 4, the park. The answers explained, hopefully clearly. All right, the process we're going to follow. You need to have the text in front of you so that you can refer to it. This is the best way to understand where you went wrong. So I don't want you simply to be giving yourself a tick or a cross. I want you to be thinking and listening to how the answer was got, what the important words were in the question that led you to the important part of the text to read to find the answer. And to do this, you need to have the text, you need to have your answers in front of you. And the best way I think of doing this is to write a number at the beginning of each line of the text so that you can find the line easily that I'm referring to when I explain the answers. So I wrote numbers down the left-hand side at the beginning of each line, starting with line number 1 as the first line that was underneath the title. So that's the line that begins, AJ was just about to tuck into his tea and toast. Obviously, you read the line that's before the title, where AJ had just arrived at Joe's house, but I haven't called that line number 1, okay? So I've called line number 1, AJ was just about to tuck into his tea and toast. So I'd like you to stop the video now and number all the lines on both pages consecutively, starting with line number 1, going all the way down. I suggest that you miss out the lines that are on the sign. Don't number those, just jump over that and then continue your numbers to the end of the text. All right, off you go. Okay, so now you've got your text underlined, not underlined, numbered rather. As I go through and explain the answers, you'll need to find the evidence in the text, the bit that I'm talking about, and underline it. This will help you understand the answers. Okay, moving on. Right, looking at questions number 1 and number 2 on this slide. Question number 1, what is AJ doing when the post arrives? So on line number 1, if you can find it, it says AJ was just about to tuck into his tea and toast, dripping in sour rhubarb jam, when there was a loud clatter from the letterbox as an important brown envelope landed on the mat. So what was AJ doing when the post arrives? You need to put it into your own words. He was about to have his breakfast. It doesn't say find and copy, so answer the question. What was he doing? He was having his breakfast. Question number 2. How does Joe know that the letter contains bad news before his mum tells him what it says? Let's look for the important words in that question. How does Joe know that the letter contains bad news before his mum tells him what it says? I think the important part there is before his mum tells him what it says. So let's look at line 11. It's the park. They've shut it down. That's where mum tells him what the letter says. So we've got to look before that. How does Joe know that it contains bad news? If you look at line 8 and line 7 says Joe knew instantly that something was wrong. Underline that. He could see it on his mum's face. So we don't copy from the text, we answer the question. So how does Joe know what the letter, that the letter contains bad news before his mum tells him what it says? He could see it on her face. That's the answer. Excuse me. Okay, moving on now. Questions 3 and 4 on this slide. Question 3. What does the letter in the brown envelope tell Joe's mother? Let's look at line 4. In line 4, it talks about the letter. The brown envelope is mentioned. But does it tell us what it says? No. So we need to move on. So I'm reading on from there, and the answer is actually in line 11. So you have to read on quite a bit, a few lines from line 4 all the way down to line 11. From the moment the letter's first mentioned, the brown envelope, which is the same word in the question as in the text, you have to read on a few lines to actually find what the letter contained, the information. So it tells Joe's mother that the park was being shut down. So the answer is all the way down there on line 11. Underline that. Notice that finding and copying the words does not answer the question. So if you wrote, "It's the park, they've shut it down," you found it and copied it, does that really answer the question? No. What does the letter in the brown envelope tell Joe's mother? That the park was being shut down. That's the answer. So you have to rephrase it in your own words to make sure that you answer the question. Okay, now we have got a find and copy question. That's when you do find the evidence in the text and just copy it word for word. Question number 4. Find and copy one word which shows that Joe is angry. Do you remember before we talked about those find and copy questions that are linked to vocabulary are often asking you for a synonym? So it uses the word angry in the question, but in the text on line 17, if you can underline the word now, it says Joe said furiously. Do you find and copy the whole phrase, Joe said furiously? No, because it says find and copy one word. So the answer is furiously. Okay, moving on. Questions 5 and 6 now on this slide. Question 5, look at page 4. Okay, in AJ's opinion, how do people feel about the park? So we're looking for the important words in the question. We've got AJ's opinion. So how do people feel? Okay, so we've got AJ's opinion and people feel. So we're looking for something about the people. On line 19, if you scan down, it says, yeah, everyone loves that place, AJ joined in. So, do we find and copy, yeah, everyone loves that place? Does that fully answer the question if you find and copy? Not really. You need to rephrase the line in the text into something that actually answers the question. So, read the question again. In AJ's opinion, how do people feel about the park? Everyone loves the park, or everyone loves that place. He thinks that everyone loves it. So that would be the answer. Again, notice that finding and copying the words does not answer the question directly. You need to write it in your own words that answers the question. So moving on to question number 6. Read question 6 because it's quite a long one. Okay, which words best complete Joe's question? So let's have a look at what it is asking. Look at paragraph beginning, you boys best get to school, to the end of page 4. Can you find it? You boys best get to school. Okay, or you'll be late, said Mum, her voice all shaky. But what about, Joe started to say. Which words would best complete Joe's question? So, we need to have a look further down because it says read on to the end of page 4. So you read on. Mum tried to smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. If she was trying to reassure Joe, it wasn't working. Now, this is where the answer is. He knew his mum needed that job. Can you find it? So it's kind of halfway before you boys best get to school down to the end of page 4. So it's on line 26. Line 26 says he knew his mum needed that job. So which words best complete Joe's question? What about Joe started to say, your job? That's the answer to the question. So let's move on now to question 7. Question 7. What is Joe's mum thinking after she reads the letter? What's she thinking? So that's the important word in the question. It's also after she reads the letter. So let's find out the line where mum reads the letter, and then we've got to look after that to see the answer. So which line does mum start reading the letter? Can you find it? On line 6, it says mum opened it and unfolded the letter. Line 7 says Joe knew instantly that something was wrong. He could see it on mum's face. What is it, mum? Joe asked. So what's mum thinking after she read the letter? Does that really answer it? He could tell on her face. Let's read a bit further on and see if we can find out the answer of what she's thinking. Line 12 says, for a second, no one said a word. Joe and AJ looked at each other, then back at Joe's mum. Her face was pale, her jaw dropped open. She stared at the letter, her eyes watery and ready to spill over with tears. So she's obviously upset. Well, we know from the beginning of the story, from the bit that is before the title, that Joe's mother is the warden who looks after the park. Can you find that bit before the title? So if she's the warden who looks after the park and they're shutting the park and she's worried and upset, what do you think she might be thinking? She's thinking that she might lose her job, or that she will lose her job, and perhaps she is worried about how she will manage for money. So the answer might be she's thinking she will lose her job. She's worried how she will cope. Something like that. You've got to make sure that you answer the question. So there, you had to actually find the point where she opens the letter, and then you have to use your information that was actually at the beginning of the story to fully answer the question. You have to remember that she's the warden of the park, so she's going to be concerned about her losing her job. Okay, moving on to question 8. If she was trying to reassure Joe, it wasn't working. What does the word reassure mean in this sentence? Again, this is a vocabulary question. Sometimes you might know the meaning of the word that's being asked about, but more often than not, you'll have to look for the clues in the text. And this is where you use all of your knowledge. So you might use the skills that you've learned in Vocabulary Detective to find out some clues from the context. First of all, you have to find the word that is being asked about. So can you scan the text and find the word reassure? It's on line 25. Read before and after this word to look for clues. So, she was trying to smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. She says before that, you leave that to me, I don't want you worrying. That kind of gives us a clue that she's trying to make him feel better about it. So I'm going to guess that it's trying to make him feel better and think that it will be okay. So that's what I'm going to write for my answer. Moving on now to question 9. Question 9. Look at the top of page 5. Find and copy one word that shows that the boys did not want to leave the house. Again, a find and copy question. It says copy one word. Make sure that you only copy one word and that you read the question carefully. So they didn't want to leave the house. Let's read at the top of page 5. Joe and AJ grabbed their bags and reluctantly headed out the door. Well, it doesn't say leave the house. It uses a synonym for leaving the house. It says headed out the door. So we're being asked to find and copy a word that shows that they did not want to leave the house. So copying headed out the door wouldn't answer the question. It's the adverb of manner that comes before headed out the door that tells us how they headed out the door. So the answer is that word. It's the adverb of manner, reluctantly. Okay, moving on to question number 10. Read question 10 carefully. Joe and AJ react very differently to seeing the man hammering in the sign. How does Joe react? So we have to find the "Oi," AJ yelled, "What are you doing?" And Joe read the sign under development. "What's going on?" Joe asked. "Why have you closed the park?" So they both react very differently. AJ yells, so underline AJ yelled. And then Joe read the sign and he says, "What's going on?" Joe asked. So Joe asked and AJ yelled. Now the question is asking us, how does Joe react? He is calmer. Yes, he's calmer than AJ. AJ is the one who's being rude. He's being quite aggressive. He yelled. So Joe is being calmer than AJ. So the answer is he is calmer. Let's have a look now at question 11. Look at the sign from the story. Who has produced the sign? Let's read the sign under development. This notice hereby declares that St George's Park is closed with immediate effect and that from the 1st of July, this park will be redeveloped and a new block of luxury flats will be built. The Department of Progress. So the last line of the sign gives the answer. Who has produced the sign? It's the Department of Progress. Let's now look at question 12. Find the right paragraph to read. Underneath the notice was to the end of page 5. And the question is, what is happening straight after Joe and AJ read the sign? So again, the answer is after the sign, because it says what's happening straight after Joe and AJ read the sign. So look where the sign is. Afterwards, it says, underneath the notice was a drawing of a posh building, tall and made of glass. It had pictures of smiling people chatting and drinking coffee outside. Does that bit tell us what Joe and AJ did? What's happening straight afterwards? Not really, because it doesn't describe any action. It just describes the picture. So let's move on to the next sentence. Can you find it? It's on line 49. Joe and AJ looked through the park gates and could already see diggers moving in, ready to tear the playground apart. Again, finding and copying that sentence isn't really going to answer the question. Let's read the question again. What's happening straight after Joe and AJ read the sign? So the answer, you have to rephrase that sentence. What is happening? The diggers were moving in, ready to tear the playground apart. So again, it's not a find and copy. It's one where you have to read, think, and then answer the question by rephrasing the text. Okay, that's the end of question 12. Moving on to the last question, question 13. Question 13. Using information from the text, tick one box to show whether each statement is true or false. In this type of question, you have to find the evidence for each statement. So you have to read different sections of the text to find the answer. Looking for the important word in each statement will help you find the right part of the text. Let's look at statement number 1. The park has been looked after by a park warden. Look for the word warden in the text. Now this is one of the tricky ones because it's in the line that is above the title. Some children forget to read a line that's above the title because they think it's not part of the story. Don't make that mistake. So read the first and second line before the title. It's true because it says Joe's mother is the warden who looks after the park. So this is true. Moving on to statement number 2. The park is going to be replaced by a shopping centre. Shopping centre. It's going to be replaced. Let's read the sign and see what it says. Does it say shopping centre? No, it says this park will be redeveloped and a new block of luxury flats. So it says luxury flats, not shopping centre. So this statement is false. Statement number 3, building work will start at the end of July. The end of July is the important part of the question. See if you can scan the text and remember where the word July has been mentioned. It's in the sign again. So read the sign and it says the park is closed from immediate effect and that from the 1st of July, the park will be redeveloped. So is it the end of July? No, it's the 1st of July. So that's the beginning. So this statement again is false. Now for the last statement, the warden has 2 weeks notice. The warden has 2 weeks notice. So 2 weeks notice is your important word. Is this true? In the sign, it says with immediate effect. Can you find that and underline it in the sign? It says with immediate effect. That's no notice at all. So no, that is false. It's with immediate effect, which means immediately from now. Okay, so that's all of the questions answered now. I hope you found those questions easy to follow and that my explanation made it clear to you if and where you made any mistakes and how to answer questions more fully and correctly in the future. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is to look through your answers, and if there are mistakes that you made, go back to them, read the question again and answer correctly this time. See if you can work out from my explanations and get it right the second time you look at it. All right. Hope you enjoyed today's lesson and you were able to follow the marking. I hope you're all working hard, whether you're in school or at home, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. All right, bye for now.